So good morning. My name is Laura Obert. I'm so happy to be here with you guys this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you're visiting us from. What we're going to be taking a look at today is our top middle school lessons. And so as we go through, and I'm just going to jump right into the presentation since we got started a little bit later. Quick recap of what Brian and Bert went through this morning. If you have any participation responding to any questions that Melanie and I are asking, go ahead and put that in the chat box. If you have specific questions that you would like an answer from Melanie or I, please put that in the Q&A box. That is going to be much more visible for us to let us know that we need to respond to that question for you. Sometimes in chat, it can get lost as we keep adding to it. And so please make sure that you're communicating through those. And I'm going to have you guys participating and answering and interacting with us as we go through. So I see we have some people from Kentucky, we have some California, a few other California. I see that we have Joliet, some more California. So it seems like we have quite a lot of people here from California, which is great. All right. If you can take a look on my screen, you will see a QR code that I have up there for you. Please go ahead and we're gonna skip that since we were doing that in chat. What we're going to be covering today is we're going to look through the 3 disciplines that TCI has embedded into our science curriculum. And in those 3 disciplines, we're going to take a look at 2 investigations and 1 engineering design. So when we are talking about our disciplines and how we have our Bring Science Alive structured for middle school, there's a couple of different opportunities that you have an approach depending on your district. One of those is going to be a more disciplinary approach. You'll see that we have our 9 programs chunked by discipline. So you can either pick between earth, life, or physical. Now, these are very flexible. So depending on your district scope and sequence, you are able to mix and match. Let's say you are a 6th grade teacher and you teach weather and climate, adaptations, and forces and energy. You can pull 1 from each of the disciplines. Maybe you're a 7th grade teacher and you teach all life science. We've got the 3 programs here to support your instruction for life science. The other opportunity that you have, and I know that we have a lot of teachers here from California, is we also have a California integrated science option. And so if your district is working within the integrated science, this is an option for you. We've already taken care of the programs and integrated them for you. What we're going to be taking a look at here today is we're going to start in our life science, and we're going to be taking a look at our cells and genetics program. When you're going into our units of instruction, every single one of our units begins with an anchoring phenomenon. This anchoring phenomenon is going to be revisited through each of our lessons or our chapters of instruction. If you're new to TCI, my teacher brain, when I think of a lesson, I think of what I'm teaching for that day's instruction. But with TCI, a lesson, depending on your instructional time, can be more like a chapter. It may take you a couple of days to get through a lesson. So you'll hear me say lesson and chapter kind of interchangeably in our time together today. When you're taking a look at our life science, we're going to look at our anchoring phenomenon to see how we are getting the students started. And within that anchoring phenomena, they're always going to have a job or a role that they're taking on. That's going to carry throughout the unit of instruction, and then it's going to be revisited at the end of instruction of that unit, and that's going to be what we're seeing and taking on in our performance assessments as well. So let's go ahead and watch this video for our anchoring phenomenon.
The human body is a large system made up of subsystems that work together to allow the body to properly function. Each of the body's subsystems has a structure and a function that enables it to work properly. But very small problems in the structure
or function of a subsystem can affect the whole body and a person's health. In this unit, you will learn how to recognize when certain body systems or subsystems are not functioning properly. You will act as a doctor and see 4 patients. Each of these patients is feeling ill. You will have to help them figure out what is wrong. You will use the results of tests, along with the patient's history and medical references, to help you diagnose your patients. You may be familiar with tests that check your vision, or tests to check your reflexes. But you will also see the results of tests like X-rays that allow you to see certain parts inside someone's body. You will even look at parts of the body that can only be seen using a microscope. As a doctor, you will consider several possible reasons for each patient's symptoms. Keep in mind how body subsystems work together so you can give the proper diagnosis.
All right, go into chat and let me know what the task is that the students are going to be completing throughout this unit of instruction. What role are we giving them? What are we asking them to be able to do at the end of the unit? What role are they taking on? Awesome. Thank you, Kimberly. So they're going to be using this information to diagnose a patient with health issues. So they're going to be taking on the role of a doctor. So as we go into this unit, the very first lesson in this unit is interacting body systems. When we take a look into this unit, every single one of our lessons has a lesson phenomena. So we just viewed the video for that anchoring phenomena that's going to anchor all of our instruction together throughout the unit. Now at this lesson level for interacting body systems, our phenomena is doctors know generally what is inside a living person's body without having to cut them open. When we go into our first investigation, we have the students dissecting frogs. And yes, the kit does come with frogs, but you do have some flexibility. So I've worked with districts before where they are not able to dissect frogs. I know that some students might have exemptions or reasons why they don't feel comfortable dissecting frogs. Whatever the case may be, while the frogs do come in your kit, you also have embedded right into our presentation videos. So students who are not comfortable dissecting those frogs are able to go in, watch the videos. And what the goal is we want the students to be learning and understanding the human body systems, the organs, and then how the frog dissection relates to the human body systems. And so that's going to be the role for investigation one. Investigation two, we have students actually creating a human body model. And so as students are creating this human body model, they're going to be learning how body systems work together, being able to identify the body systems, what organs goes in which body system, and that's going to take place as they're creating these body models. We don't only use it in this first lesson though. We also go through and we're going to add to this human body model as students are going through the unit of instruction. So when we start to take a look at tissues, we're going to then take a look and add tissues into our human body model. When we get into our nervous system, students are going to go in and add nerves into the human body model. So this is going to be used throughout this unit of instruction and building upon it as we scaffold throughout instruction in the unit. Our next lesson is going to be, our next investigation is going to be diagnosing a patient, which ties back into that anchoring phenomena. So remember, in the anchoring phenomena, students are going to be dissecting a hypothetical patient, and they're going to be diagnosing what troubles they're having. What we're going to be doing in this very first lesson is we're going to be diagnosing Mr. T. Now, he does not look like the Mr. T of our youth if you are anywhere around my age. So he is going to look a little bit different than what you might possibly be picturing from Mr. T in your head. When we come in here and we are diagnosing Mr. T, students are going to have an opportunity to just be looking at one body system. But at the end of the unit of instruction, when we're doing that performance assessment, they're going to look at how all the body systems interact together. And they're going to look at multiple different challenges or ailments that a patient might be having to diagnose that patient. Mr. T is coming in with us today and he's not feeling very well. So we're going to take a look at this patient intake form. Melanie has just shared the patient intake form in chat. So you guys can click on that and you can view it a little bit larger on the screen if you'd like to. But let's take a look at what Mr. T is coming in with. We know that he is 72 years old. He is a male. He did get his flu shot this year, and he has not traveled out of the country in the last 6 months. He is not a smoker, but he has been hospitalized in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, Mr. T had a heart attack. Today, he is coming in because he's been feeling lightheaded lately, and he can't walk more than a few steps without losing his breath. So thinking into the body systems and knowing what we know about Mr. T's prior health, what body systems do you think we might want to check? Go ahead and put in chat what body systems you think we might want to be checking as Mr. T's doctor. Remember, he had a heart attack 2 years ago, and he is having difficulty walking more than a few steps without losing his breath and been feeling lightheaded. Bert said circulatory system, Kimberly said respiratory, circulatory, cardiovascular. Awesome. Those are great suggestions. So what the students are going to do next is now they're going to listen to Mr. T. They're going to act as doctors to help diagnose him. So one of the suggestions was we need to listen to his respiratory system because he's complaining of getting out of breath, and that deals with our lungs. So we're going to listen to Mr. T's respiratory system. And so what I'd like for you to do is first we're going to listen to normal lung sounds. So let's listen to the normal lung sounds. Sounds a little bit like Darth Vader. Now let's go ahead and listen to Mr. T's lung sound, and let's compare that with Mr. T's lung sounds. We're going to try and share our sound again and make sure that you guys are able to hear this. Can you hear Mr. T's or the normal lung sounds? Perfect. Okay, let's try that again. So we're going to listen to a normal lung sound. And now let's compare that to Mr. T's lung sound. Does it sound the same to the normal lung sound? Are we hearing anything different in there? Let's go ahead and take a listen. So if we go back to our patient intake form, it's asking us, is his breathing normal or abnormal? In the chat, go ahead and let me know if we believe his breathing is normal or abnormal. Jacqueline says normal. Awesome. All right, so it sounded the same to me. Perfect. Another normal. So we don't hear really much differentiation between Mr. T's lungs and the normal lung sound. So we're going to go ahead on our patient intake form and check off that Mr. T's lungs sound normal. Now he's complaining of feeling like he's out of breath when he's walking. So the other body system that we suggested we take a look at is Mr. T's heart and his circulatory system. And so we're going to go ahead now and we're going to listen to Mr. T's heart. Before we listen to Mr. T's heart, we need to know what a normal heartbeat sounds like. So let's go ahead and listen to the normal heartbeat. And look at your patient intake form. The patient intake form is asking us, does Mr. T's heartbeat sound slow, normal, or is it beating fast? So now let's go ahead and listen to Mr. T's heartbeat so that we can fill that out. In the chat, let me know, what are you observing about Mr. T's heart? It's fast. It's definitely beating much faster. So now in our patient intake form, we're going to fill out that Mr. T's heart is beating fast. The next step, now that we've taken a look at these two tests, we're going to have to diagnose our patient. So Melanie is sharing in the chat with you the disorder of circulatory systems. You guys can go ahead and click on that in the chat if you'd like to see it larger. In here, we have given you 3 different disorders of the circulatory system. What I would like for you guys to do is I want you to read through and identify which best is the diagnosis, what is the best diagnosis for Mr. T based on the patient intake form, based on the tests that we've done. What can we diagnose Mr. T with? As you're doing this, I'm going to share a Mentimeter with you on the screen. And I'd like for you to go ahead. You can just scan the QR code on your phone. And I would like for you to go ahead and use claim evidence reasoning to diagnose this patient. So your claim should be whichever disorder you believe he's suffering from, and then provide evidence and reasoning from the patient intake form and the exams that we've done with Mr. T to give us your diagnosis. If you've never used the Mentimeter before, you can just open up the camera app on your phone. You can take a picture of this QR code and it'll take you right into the Mentimeter. And from here, you can begin giving me your claim evidence reasoning. Give you guys a couple minutes to type. Okay, so I see somebody believes that Mr. T is suffering from heart failure because his breathing is normal. And then he is, when active, his heart rate is fast and he is tired. Excellent. Let's see if anybody else has a different diagnosis for Mr. T, or if they proved any other evidence or reasoning in here. I think he is about to have a heart attack. His heart rate is fast and his breathing is labored. Okay. Give it another about 30 seconds and see if we get any other responses. We see that he has an irregular heartbeat. Now you might find a regular heartbeat on a couple of the different disorders. Claim he is suffering from heart failure. Evidence he has shortness of breath, fast heartbeat. Reasoning he does not have a heart attack due to no mention of chest pain. Very good. All right, and so your students are going to be able to come in and taking a look at these different disorder forms. Your students are going to be able to clearly diagnose the patient. Now, when we were taking a look in the Mentimeter, no one gave us congenital heart disease. One of the reasons why we can rule this out is he is not having blue tint to his skin, lips, or nails. And also that is something that patients are born with. And Mr. T was not born with this disorder or this defect. Heart failure has fast heart rate, shortness of breath when active. Mr. T can check off both of those. He didn't complain of tiredness, but we do know that heart failure is likely to appear after an infection or an injury, such as a heart attack, which Mr. T had 2 years ago. And then taking a look at heart attack, Mr. T is not complaining of sudden chest pain. He does have shortness of breath, but not when resting. He has it when he's walking a few steps. So that's going to allow us to cross that symptom off as well. And so we're going to go through and students are going to be able to best diagnose the patient. So this gives us kind of a walkthrough. And again, this connects back to our anchoring phenomena. The students are now practicing at the lesson level so that when they get into that anchoring phenomena and they're diagnosing the patient JJ and they're looking at multiple different body systems, they're able to pull this in and use claim evidence reasoning to diagnose JJ. Another lesson that I'd like for us to go ahead and take a look at, now we're moving into our physical science. This is our Matter program. I love this lesson and it's so fun to do with students because we've all had to memorize the periodic table and understand what the different components on the periodic table represent. But in this lesson, students are going through and they are going to make up their own periodic table. And so it makes the learning really relevant to them. We give an example of imagine you are in a shoe store and the salesperson might be asking questions. They're asking these questions to better kind of classify and diagnose exactly what you're looking for in the shoe store. Are you looking for a sneaker? Are you looking for a flip-flop, high heels? What size do you wear? So they can best support you. So we give the students the example as we're walking through so that they are then able to take this example and they're going to then apply it to creating their own periodic table. The goal of this is we want students to really be able to understand the classification and the organization that takes place in the periodic table and why we're grouping different elements together. So they're going to do this on their own with their groups, coming up with a topic of which they're going to build their periodic table on. This is a really fun lesson and it kind of tips it on its head. And I've seen students really react well to better understanding the organization and classification of the periodic table. The next lesson that we're going to take a look at is we're going to actually go back to our PowerPoint here because now we're going into our space lesson. So in this space lesson, now we're going to take a look at an engineering design. When you are looking at our program, every single unit has an engineering challenge or an engineering design built in. So for every unit of instruction, there's going to be an engineering component. In our space program, this one we're going to take a look at is our dampening device. And so to give us a little bit of background knowledge, let's go ahead and play the video while I give you some background knowledge as to what we are asking students to do. While this video is playing, you guys can watch the video. We're tasking the students with the role. A director of a movie is collaborating with you and they would like to collect footage from space. NASA's agreed to let him put a capsule with a camera on their next rocket to launch into space. While watching this video and seeing the rocket launch into space, what concerns might you have about transporting a camera? So what are some challenges? And we'll start this over again, just as we're now thinking of some of these challenges, watching the takeoff. What are some challenges that we might face if we're transporting a camera on this rocket ship up to space? Go ahead and share that in chat for me. The camera might break. What could cause the camera to break? The rocket could, it could fall and burn up. Will it withstand the forces? So there's going to be a whole lot of force pushing against it. Will the camera withstand the forces? Excellent. One of the other things that I noticed when we were watching the video is there was quite a lot of movement and vibration. And so is the camera going to stay lodged where we put it? It could have challenges from the heat. We see the immense fire that's coming in. And so will it be able to withstand the heat and the friction that's taking place? Excellent. So as we go through and we take a look at this lesson and we're going through this engineering challenge, the next task is we have to identify any criteria and constraints as we are creating this capsule that's going to take the camera up into space on this rocket ship. Melanie has just shared the letter from the producer with you in the chat, so you can enlarge that. I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes to skim through and read this letter from the producer. What I would like for you to keep in mind is identifying the criteria and constraints that we can find out about this letter from the producer. As you're identifying some of the criteria or constraints that we are learning throughout this letter from the producer, go ahead and start adding them into chat. No human involvement. So it lets us know that there is not going to be a human on board. And so there won't be anybody that's able to hold the camera, aim the camera, angle the camera where we need to get the best shots up in space. Elizabeth shared the cost. So making the camera making the camera cannot break, and they only have 3 days to develop a prototype. So they are on quite a time constraint there. All right. Any other criteria or constraints as you're reading through this letter? So Elizabeth mentioned cost. What is our constraint with cost? What's our budget? Kim gave a great point. The camera must fit inside the capsule that's provided for us. And that capsule, the mass cannot exceed 10 kilograms. Awesome. Kimberly, she let us know that the cost is $2,000. Now, as our students are sometimes reviewing through this, if they're not reading carefully, they won't see $2,000 listed on there. So it lets us know that we do have a budget of $10,000 for space footage. However, $8,000 has already been used to design the camera that's going in there. Now we are designed with creating a damping device. What is a damping device? So a lot of those different concerns that we talked about when we were watching the rocket launch into space, we talked about heat, we talked about the vibrations, the frictions, the movement, all of those things. So we need to create a capsule that's going to minimize or limit that movement so that the camera is stationary. One of the other things that somebody shared in here is that it has to point out the window. So Kim said the camera has to be pointing out of a window. So we know we have to build a window in our damping device so that the camera lens can shoot out of it. We know that the camera has to stay shooting out of that window throughout the duration of the rocket launch and it being up in space. And then we also know that it needs to be able to not break, because if it breaks while it's up in space, we're not going to be getting the footage that we need for our movie that we're developing or that the producer is asking to develop. So these things are all kind of listing into it. One of the other things that we have to talk about is that 3-day time limit that we have. And then we also have to kind of brainstorm what we're going to be doing to build this. So let's take a look at the materials list that come in the kit that the students are then going to be able to pick which materials. Melanie just shared the material list. If it's easier for you to pull that up on your own device so you can see that more clearly. What you're going to notice when we're taking a look at this price list and this materials list is that lets us know what materials are available, which is going to be one of our constraints. We're limited to the materials that are here. It also lets us know the price of the material, because remember, we have to keep it under that budget of $2,000. And it lets us know the mass. And again, the mass needs to maintain, it cannot be more than 10 kilograms in order for it to be able to be attached to the rocket. So the students are going to go through, they have to decide as a group which materials they're going to purchase and they're going to use to make sure that they are developing a damping device. So taking a look at this video here, we have students doing this live. What you're going to see here is first a group of students, they're picking some of the materials. So I can see that this group has selected cotton balls, they selected some of the peanuts. As I watch this, I notice that there's cups that they have on there. Now, what we're going to be doing as we're doing this engineering challenge is we're doing a little bit of a different version than the egg drop that most of us have probably either done when we were kids in school or we've done with our students too, where we give the students an egg. The egg, they have to develop a parachute or some sort of a device in which the egg is not going to break when we drop it from higher heights. What we're doing with this video, with this instead, is we are giving the egg. The egg is going to represent the camera. The teacher will draw a dot on the egg to represent where the camera needs to be so that we can see if it is facing out of the window the entire duration of the rocket. And so then the students are going to come in and they're going to test their designs. And so as you see here, they're finding out if they have success. One of the things they're looking at is, did the camera hole face out of their damping device throughout the duration? And they're also identifying, did the camera break throughout that rocket launch and the flight? As we notice, this young boy, he's the first one where his camera breaks. Now, one of the things that I love when I'm doing this with students too is we want to make this consistent. Now, if you are shaking your own damping device, are you going to shake it as hard as you possibly would who you're competing with to see if you're going to get this bid with the producer? And so either I have students shake each other's damping devices, or if you want to keep it that constant, the teacher can do it so that you're applying the same pressure, the same rigor, the same force for each duration, for each of the tests to see if that camera is going to withstand the flight of the rocket launch. And so this is a really great engineering challenge and task to do. Now, as we came in here, I know a lot of you guys have been using this program. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and share in chat. What are some of the favorite lessons that you've done in middle school science? And what is one of the things that you loved about that lesson with your students? Because we might have some new users in here that have not used Bring Science Alive yet. Elizabeth, new to the program, but so excited. Awesome, Elizabeth. I'm so excited for you to use it this year with your kids. What programs are you going to be teaching? Do you know? Bert shared a great response. The classroom observatory, that lesson is phenomenal. And so when you're going through and you're taking a look at that unit, your students are actually going to be able to set up an observatory within the classroom, and it is super engaging. Life science and physical science, very good. Oh, Bert says the planetarium. Having the kids construct a chairlift using the balloon, straw, and paper clip. That one's really, really fun. That's a great engineering task too. Thank you, Kimberly, for sharing that. Any other lessons? The moose versus the wolves. That's also a great one. Bert wanted to know if anybody in here has done the Sand City with waves. Oh, Jacqueline, I'm glad that you love the periodic table with shoes. It goes over so well. And so that's one of the great things too about Bring Science Alive. When you're looking at the next generation science standards, and when we're going in, one of the big focuses is making sure that we're hands-on and minds-on. So not every single lesson are you going to be dissecting frogs. Not every lesson are you going to be creating an engineering challenge or an engineering design. While those all do live in here, we also want to have a lot of lessons where our students are thoughtful and they're problem solving and they are minds on. And so having them go through and really think about how we're going to organize our data sets, how we're going to create groupings of our elements. It's a great minds on lesson that students can do. The foil cutting with atoms, that goes along right along with the periodic table one. That one's also really good. Kim said 6th to 8th grade integrated, 8th grade Earth, Sun, Moon systems. The investigations are awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, Kim. All right, so a couple of things, because I know we do have some new users to TCI in here that I just want to highlight before we wrap up and finish up.
Laura, just
Yes.
to give you a reminder, we are at 10 minutes. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Melanie.
Yep.
So since we are wrapping it up and we're at the end, just a couple of things that I want to highlight. When you're going in and you are teaching with TCI, you can trust that you are going to be hitting those standards. You're going to be hitting your performance expectations. You're going to be hitting your three-dimensional learning within your science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, and cross-cutting concepts. So at multiple points throughout the program, you can always trust when you're lesson planning and you are doing these top investigations with your students that those standards are going to be hit, those standards are going to be covered. And so as you're going through in your lesson planning, you will see a lot of different touch points here that's going to let you know what the PE, SEP, DCI, and CCC are that you are hitting with your students. So you can always find those correlations. At the unit level, you can also go through and you can clearly identify those standards, the PEs, and the 3D learning that you're doing throughout that unit. So when you go into your unit level, you're going to be able to hover over any of these and just kind of see what you're going to be implementing and utilizing as you go through and you move throughout your unit of instruction. Couple of things before we wrap up, and I want to give you guys plenty of time to have a quick bathroom break if you need to, as well as getting into your next session. Hopefully you don't have any technology issues like we had getting started with this one, and you can smoothly get into your next period. But a couple of things that I want to point out, and I just want to touch on before we finish up our time together today. TCI is here to support you in every single step that you are doing throughout your instruction. So if you are brand new, like Kim, or if you have been using us for years, we want to support you every step of the way. You can join our newsletter, and so you're going to get any information, up-to-date content, anything new that we're improving or adding in, great resources that we've developed to add in for you. That's going to come for you in your newsletter. The next thing that you're going to see here is our in-app PD. And so I know Brian and Bert touched upon this a little bit in the beginning in the welcome session, but throughout the in-app PD, this is, if your district allows it, you can go through and complete some of these sessions and you can get credit throughout your district. It will give you the opportunity to print off certificate of completion within TCI. And it's also just a fantastic resource as you're using either a new program or maybe, you know, as we are on summer break and we're forgetting some of the resources that might embed in there. It's really going to give you step-by-step support in any and every single component that you can think of within TCI's instruction. We also have a really great Facebook group. If you want to join there, this community will brainstorm ideas together so you can talk to other teachers that are using the same program as you, and you can brainstorm throughout that Facebook community group. This is an example of the certification that you're going to be able to see, and you're going to be able to get if you complete that in-app PD. And then the next thing that we want to talk about is this is a brand new experience here. And so we're thrilled to introduce the TCI coaching program. It's a unique and exciting opportunity designed for passionate TCI users and educators like yourselves to share your knowledge and make a real difference inside your schools. So imagine being a part of a dynamic community where you can connect with fellow teachers, support new teachers and TCI users, and contribute to the growth and the success in your teaching community. That's what this is all about. So whether you've been using TCI for years or you're just getting started, the TCI Coach program welcomes all educators who are passionate about bringing learning alive, and it gives you an opportunity to use this chance to take your enthusiasm and expertise to the next level and help other educators discover the transformative powers of TCI. If this is something you're interested in, please join us, become a TCI coach, and let's help inspire and elevate our community together. The other thing that you have the opportunity to do here, as you guys are going through and you're completing these different sessions, please use your voice, share this out, go into our TCI Summit, and you can share the hashtag TCI Summer 24. And what you can do is then, if you share your favorite lesson that you sit in, something that you learned, or something that you liked about TCI Summit, you will be entered into a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card. 3 users who go in and share their responses and their support for TCI and Summit are going to be winning Amazon gift cards. Perfect timing, because we're going to be selecting our winners in August. So right before the school year is going to get started. So if there are new things that you want or need in your classroom, it's going to be a great support to help you with that. Or use it for something personal for yourself. It does not have to be for your classroom. What I'd like for you guys to do is go ahead and comment for me in the chat what your experience was within this session. Now, I know we got off to a rocky start, and I apologize. I'm sure in the classroom we have all experienced opportunities where technology is not working for us. And so I do apologize for that rocky start for us getting started, but go ahead and let me know in the chat how you felt about this session, just giving a little feedback so that we know what we can improve on in the future. Very good. Seeing a lot of heart eye emojis. I'm so happy that this was helpful for you, Elizabeth. Wishing you all the luck as you get started with TCI. All right. The last thing that I just want to give you guys a little bit of an overview. Next up is period 2. And so go ahead and take a look at the session titles here and identify, if you haven't already, you have a couple of minutes to identify which of these sessions is going to best align with giving you the support that you need for this upcoming school year. And then in order to get into that, you are going to be able to go back into our lobby. And from our lobby, you're going to be able to join period 2. And so Melanie did share the Summit Sessions page with you in chat as well. Thank you, Melanie. And so if you guys would like to open that up, you can see all of the different sessions that we have for period 2 and period 3 coming up. And we are going to give you guys a couple of minutes so that you can go ahead and use the restroom, maybe grab something to drink before you're jumping in and joining this next session for period 2. Absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. I wish you all the best of luck for this next school year. I hope you guys have the best students you've ever had in your life, and you don't have any students that are going to give you any trouble, right? Isn't that what we all wish for every year? All right. And if you guys have any questions, Melanie's going to go ahead and stay in here to manage chat. So if you do have any problems getting back out to that lobby, Melanie will be here to support you and help you get back into that lobby so that you can get yourself into your next session. And in order to do that, you're just going to go ahead and return back to that lobby where you will see the list of all of the different periods and sessions. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a fantastic school year and enjoy the rest of Summit and all of the great information and experiences that you're going to get throughout the rest of today. Have a great day.